Splatoon is an amazing game, and one experience it has only happens a few times a year, and that is a LAN event. These are in-person tournaments with venues, artist alleys, and are one of the rare occasions to see the community in person. This year, the main LAN event we had was Riptide 2025. This turned out to be the largest Splatoon LAN ever in terms of attendance, and it also was the most stacked in terms of top-level competition. So today, I want to cover everything that happened and what makes events like these special. So what's competing at a LAN actually like? Honestly, it's a lot different. You're still mic'd up with your teams and at a setup, but your teammates are literally just right there next to you, with your opponents nearby and usually a few people at least watching around you. There's a lot of background noise, and this gets elevated further for the crowd. This especially starts during top 8 when almost everybody is watching these sets on the big stage, and either as a competitor or even those commentating backstage, you hear all of it.
They haven't really exactly found the footing here to try to keep going. They are going to try to initiate the fights here though before we pick up.
Oftentimes, there can be some hilarious moments. During Grands, Umami got picked twice, which led to the crowd reacting like this for future picks, even though they couldn't actually pick Umami again.
Continuing to keep up the pressure, allowing Zenith to continue diving, and now she can't do that.
Very interesting Rainmaker that they're going for here. Of course, they can't go back to clams. We've established.
People in the crowd also got split between their favorite teams, which led to moments like this. Safe to say it's a lot to adjust to on the competitor side, but the experience is just amazing. You get to feel the real energy of the crowd as every single person felt involved in every single moment that happened, really riding that wave of hype far more than you could ever experience in something like a Twitch chat. The main crowd moment that happened in this event, though, was actually not really for any team in particular, but instead for Rainmaker. There were two key moments, one of which being the end of Moonlight versus Crush Soda, where something happened that's pretty rare for a Splatoon crowd. Actual booing, attributed to Rainmaker stalling being the way to end the set. And this wasn't an isolated incident either, as once again, the Rainmaker was being stalled in Game 4 of Grand Finals, with the crowd then erupting with this chant. Now, there's been Mode slander before, but I think this one takes the cake. The final moment of Grand Finals being hundreds of people chanting against how this mode inevitably plays out at this level is something else. And with the NA League starting out, it's not going to be going away anytime soon. It has been clear from this and other all modes events like Super Jump, though, that Rainmaker stalling is a real problem. While previous Splatoon games have had issues with Rainmaker due to game-breaking specials like Ray, it seems like the inherent balance is struggling with a long minute timer for the objective, and more importantly, the pathetic amount of routes, which create ideal stalling spots. If the enemy team only has one place to go, you know exactly where you want to be to keep it away from that route. Rainmaker over the course of the past few years has really started to lose its reputation as a fast-paced mode where comebacks can happen, and be seen as one where often it'll just be one good push that's all you need for the rest of the game to be stalled to a complete halt. Hopefully, we can see some changes to this mode in the future. While Splatoon 3 can't heavily change the map design, I think at least implementing a 45-second Rainmaker timer and maybe a few more Rainmaker free zones could be useful. Speaking of modes, let's talk about the weapon compositions we saw in an all mode setting, as this is a bit more rare than zones only nowadays. The main trend we saw at the top 4 teams level was running the combination of Dualies and Kensa Pro more often, as the extra special output and weapon mobility in lethal bombs ended up giving some much needed flexibility, while the main weapon fighting power was still solid enough overall. These other modes tended to be much slower paced than zones since the objective required constant maintenance, so relying on specials to brute force things was required a bit more than zones where main weapon power can get a lot more out of it. Overall, I don't think we really saw too many unique comps or weapon variations compared to zones only formats, but there were still a few picks. Crushed Soda ran a consistent Wiper and 52 gal, neither of which have been common lately. Hypernova also ran a combination of double sword, being Wiper and Mint, along with double hammer as they had an Inkbrush Nuvo. This was another incredibly fast dive-oriented comp that landed them top 4 over Moonlight. This dive style of play with dualies and a sword was therefore 3 out of 4 of the top teams of the event, really showing its popularity catching on, especially in formats like this. It's especially cool to see Hypernova's comp relying on a lot less entry specials and using more of these mid-fight options that we really saw the utility of in SWS last month. We also did see a bit more of Rapid Pro and E-Leader in tower control, but nothing consistent in terms of the matches actually won in that mode. Overall, the comps ended up about exactly as you would expect it to be in this setting, more stagnant and limited. You just can't be as unique with this many varying objectives, and trying to constantly change the comp has too many overall inconsistency issues, leading to a trend of overall safer weapon compositions. Probably the team with the highest expectations on them this event was Moonlight, who ended up placing 5th. They were very clearly the crowd favorite for this event, and it wasn't hard to notice that from the spectator stands. This was also further hyped up by the fact that Moonlight had won both MomoCon and Get On My Level this year, which, while less stacked overall, added to their expectations, as these were other in-person events where the crowd could really help them shine. This was possibly added even more so due to the fact that they've had some really good tournament runs over the course of the summer, their best yet. While Moonlight's unique composition struggles heavily on tower control due to it being extremely poor for Tenebrella and forcing them to swap to a leader composition, Rainmaker and Clams can be beneficial to them. While I'm unsure it's better than a zones only environment, the heavy shielding does have a good way to force points with Rainmaker and Clam Blitz. However, this event saw them have to deal with the 2 most dive focused teams in the event, once again being Hypernova and Crushed Soda, where we fell short 1-3. Moonlight also did experiment a bit with Normal Brella, which was recently buffed into more of a supportive slot. The idea behind this was mainly that it would be countered less by these compositions than Tenebrella, but whether it be to the weapon being too new to have proper practice on it, or it just not fitting as well as Tenebrella, the swap back to the usual comp Moonlight is known for, the Mint 96 Tent and Pen, ended up being what got them their closest games, with all 3 against Crushed Soda being absolute nail biters. We're gonna have to see how this team bounces back from this event, and hopefully they learn from it well in time for the upcoming North American League. Overall, Riptide, and all the lands for that matter, are an experience first and a tournament second. Being able to meet up with your friends and spend time with the community can serve as a big reminder as to why we're all in this scene in the first place. The vibes are always amazing, and this was probably my favorite event personally. I have a huge respect for the TOs and event organizers for running something like this. I can't imagine all of the work that goes into it behind the scenes, and I can't wait to continue to see these events grow, even when the game is getting less content. If you did go to Riptide, feel free to share your experience in the comments, and thanks so much for watching this event recap. I'll see you all next time.